If You Really Knew Me is an activity that would fall into the brain break category that I do with my students often. I don't typically do it in the beginning of the year. I do it kind of once we've felt each other out and know and feel comfortable with one another. It's an activity that I saw and came across from a program called Challenge Day, which is an anti-bullying, pro-empathy program that comes into high schools and helps high school students, community members, and teachers. And one of the games that they play or activities that they do is called If You Really Knew Me. And what you do is you have the students sit in a circle, all facing one another, and they share something about themselves that others around them may not know. So they start off by saying, if you really knew me, you'd know that. And sometimes you get simple things such as, I am afraid of spiders. But other times you'll get that kid that you may think has everything together and life is perfect for them, who says, if you really knew me, you would know that my parents got divorced when I was 3 and it still affects me today. And there's never any parameters put on it. You let kids share what they're comfortable with sharing. It's not something I take for a grade. It's just a way to team build and to connect with one another and to help build those anti-bullying and empathetic qualities in us, and for kids to see how alike we really are when we don't normally see that.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AP World History. Just want to show you a little bit of a brain break to show some kids completely nothing about history, but a little trick that they can maybe go home and wow their parents with. But ultimately, I'm teaching a little bit of a lesson about perceived choices. They think they have a choice in this entire aspect, but in reality, they have absolutely no choice whatsoever. So Mr. Shropshire is going to take the lead on this particular aspect. So if we'll just follow right along, and Mr. Shropshire is going to answer some questions for us. So Mr. Shropshire, I just need you to pick 2 suits out of the deck, please.
Spades and hearts.
Spades and hearts. Spades and hearts. That leaves us with clubs and diamonds, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're going to pick one of those, clubs or diamonds, sir?
Clubs.
Clubs. All right. So you have clubs. So I want you to pick 5 clubs, please.
Jack, queen, king, ace, 10.
Okay. Pick 3 of those, please.
Queen, ace, king.
Queen, ace, king. Leaves us with a 10 and the jack. Pick one of those, please.
Jack.
Jack. All right. Mr. Shropshire, let me ask you this question. Do you think you had an option of choice of how this is going to go through there?
Yep.
All right. So how many cards do you think I should pull out of my pocket before I pull out that jack of clubs?
51.
You're going to pull out 51 cards?
Yep.
Before you do that? Well, you're going to have to count. You're just going to have to trust me on that. There's
Okay.
51 cards there.
Okay.
Do you want this one to be the card you picked?
Yep.
What was it again?
Jack of clubs.
Jack of clubs. Now, in actuality, did you have any? You didn't have a choice in that, did you?
Guess not.
It's a very simple trick. All we do here, ladies and gentlemen, is actually just put the bottom card that you're trying to find closest to your butt, essentially, in your pocket. So whatever the bottom card might be, so in this case it was the jack of clubs, we'll do the 4 of spades this time. So all I did was ask him to choose 2 suits. So Mr. Shropshire, go ahead and do that again, please.
Pick spades and hearts.
Spades and hearts. And that leaves, okay, spades and hearts, that leaves, pick one of those, please. Pick one of those.
Yeah, but last time I picked the other 2 suits, didn't I?
It doesn't matter, see, because you think I'm giving you a choice, but I'm actually not. I'm forcing you to choose this.
Got it.
So all of a sudden, you picked a spade and a heart. You picked one of the ones that I wanted, so therefore I want you to choose one of those.
Got it. Hearts.
Hearts, and so I want you to choose the spade, so I'm going to say that leaves us with spades. Had you chosen spades, I would have said, okay, cool, we'll go with spades.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to stay with the spades. Now you pick 5 of those.
Let's go with ace, 2, 3, 4, 5.
See, he's doing this pretty simple for us. He could have chosen the face cards, and essentially I would have had to talk him into the 5. But since we have the 4 of spades, that's what we're looking for. Go ahead and pick 3 of those, sir.
Let's go 3, 4, 5.
3, 4, 5. Pick 2 of those.
Well, let's go 3, 4.
3, 4. One of those.
Let's go 3.
3 leaves us with a 4 of spades. Now once again, how many of those cards are you going to pull out of my pocket? You can say 2 or 3. And since that 4 of spades is actually closest to me, I know that I need to pull the 3, pull the 3 from these other front. 2, 3, and then I know that I can pull the last one here that's just closest to myself, pull that right out of my pocket. We have the 4 of spades. So this is something the kids can learn relatively simply. They walk away learning something new. It gives them a little bit of a brain break, but it also, if you can tie into this about perceived choices and perceived actions, they think they're having a choice, but in actuality, I'm forcing them to choose the card that I want them to pick. Hope this works out well. If you have any questions for me, please let me know.
Okay, so the brain break I'm going to talk about is the brain toss. Previously, I was at a middle school, and so there was some self-control issues, so using the beanbag was probably not the best tool, so we used dice. Groups of 6, they all assigned themselves a number corresponding to the side of the dice, and then they would roll, and whoever was assigned that number got to choose from the bucket in the middle that had either vocabulary words if you wanted it, content, or just some extra trivia to truly do a brain break for the day. And then they would collect the slips, and they had points assigned on the inside to make it a little bit more challenging for those learners, and then they would add up their points at the end to see who got the most. But the dice made it a little bit more random so that students couldn't sandbag another student by always tossing to a certain student because it was the luck of the dice. Then after our PL, I did the beanbag toss with the high school level, and I did implement that they could not toss it back to prior to people that had this beanbag prior, and we did the same thing. I did it once with vocabulary words that had points assigned, and so the answers are in the inside with points assigned, and then I also did it with extra trivia, like what's your favorite city, what are all the words that you can think of with the letter B, do you like Gandalf or Luke Skywalker, and so they had some fun trivia in there, and they also had points assigned, which I thought would be kind of fun, challenging, so that they could collect points and then add them up at the end.
So for my brain break, I use a game called Bop, and it's mathematical, but it's not as high level math as the class normally does. And what we do is we go around the room and each student says a number so that we are counting all the way up to 50. But the trick is if the number that you're supposed to say has a 3 in it or is a multiple of 3, you have to say Bop instead. So the goal is to get to 50. But if your number is a multiple of 3, then you say Bop instead. So what happens is if you say your number when you should have said Bop, or you say Bop when you should have said your number, then we start all over again, and the goal is just to get to 50. And it's a nice little break from the math that they're already doing, and it's a little bit simpler. You can extend onto that game by adding in multiples of 7 and numbers that have 7 in them, or whatever you want to do.
Oh, hello. My name is Jonathan Houghton. I'm a chemistry teacher here. I used to teach over in West Texas at a modified block schedule, so I used to mess around with brain teasers a little bit. So I call this Brain Train. It's something that I just made up, but there's a website about it, so don't quote me on it. So basically, I just try to stop the lesson cycle, whatever we do. I usually have a Fitbit kind of like vibrating alarm that stops me every 30 minutes to make sure that I either change the activity, or if I'm in the middle of something that I can't change, then I usually do one of these, just to kind of break it up and then I come back to it. So I like brain teasers more than I do just kind of like random things, just because it keeps students thinking and it usually challenges them on something different. So it takes their mind off of the current subject, usually wakes them up, but it still keeps them in that mode of working. So I have something from Teachers Pay Teachers that I bought that has like 200 slides of riddles and kind of like brain teasers. The students will usually work with their table mates, and they'll come together in their I'm a chemistry teacher, so we have lab composition books, and at the back of it they fill in the brain teasers. That way I never have to have a worksheet or anything. It's just I go as the week progresses and I pick out a new brain teaser, and then they just go to the back and start filling them in. So they work as a table to try and figure out the brain teaser, and it usually only takes about 2 minutes before they either can't figure it out and then I give a hint, or they've figured it out and they start trying to compete for time. And they usually enjoy them because the slides are really pretty, to where it usually just has something that's more engaging and just visually appealing, and they kind of think about it. But I usually only do that about once a week. The other days I usually have something to where it's they think different things with their mind and body motion, to where like telling them they have to keep their hands and rotate them in opposite circles. And I tell them to do this at first, and then they start getting really weirded out, and they try to do it, and then they start doing this a lot, and then they can't do it, and then it starts to just make them giggle and have fun. And then I do the same thing to where I make them stand up, and then they kind of wiggle their leg in an opposite direction to where they have to wiggle their leg clockwise and then counterclockwise to where now they're standing and all looking goofy. But they enjoy it because I started off small. So I'm not a big person that encourages forcing introverts to be extroverts. Instead, I just try to make the introverts feel like ambiverts to where they're comfortable both ways. So I'll ask them kind of like simple magic tricks. So I'll ask them, I'll put up a picture on the board, and it's just the simple one where it has a clock and then it has lines going through all of them. And then I say to pick any number and then connect the line. And then if you subtract the two numbers, then I'll guess their number. And it's an easy one because it'll always be 6, because if you do 12 minus 6, it makes 6. And it makes them think, and then I ask them why, and then they always have to figure out why. So the main reason behind all this is that I try to like trick them at first and make them think why, and then I make them answer why. I never tell them why. I make them all discover it. That way we never actually have magic. Even if I do a magic trick, we understand the reasoning behind it. Another cool one that I do is it's called like magic finger, but then I change it to physics finger. So that's where you make the student, and you could do this at first with one student and then partner them up with pairs of 2. But you make them put their arms over, and most people have seen this now. You tell them whenever you put one finger on their forehead to stand up, and then they can't do it because you need to rock your body forward to be able to stand up. So they think that something weird's going on, and then after we've all tested it out and people are really weirded out, and usually if you can find like a huge football guy to then stand down, and then a really small person or yourself to just put your finger and make it to where they can't, then they realize that something's going on. And usually it only takes a few minutes before some students start to figure out, well, the center of gravity for your body is behind your feet right now. So unless they put their feet underneath the chair, there's no physical way that they could stand up. But it's just fun stuff like that. Usually just things that encourage thinking outside the box, away from the content, but then it's still relevant to things around them. And usually I just tell them if they're ever at a gathering at some point, then they can share the science behind it. They probably won't, but I hope they do.
All right, guys, gonna show you a little brain break that I do with my class. It was pretty fun. Basically, this has nothing to do with content. It's just a way to get them up and moving and having fun at the same time. So I have all the students stand up, and then I have on different parts of the room, I will label the number on a dice. So 1 all the way to 6. So this board would be 1, that board would be 2, 3, and so on. And I have all the students pick one of the numbers. So please go stand next to the number. They stand next to the number. I then roll the dice. Whatever the dice lands on, that number is now out, and all the students have to go and sit down. Then I force all the students to move. Don't let them stay at the same number, and they all move to a different number. And then I have one of the students who are out that now are not participating, but they are still going to participate because they get to roll the dice. They roll the dice, and then that number is out. And we will keep on doing this until there is a one winner and one.
Hi everybody, I'm going to tell you about my brain break called My Best Friend. This is something I like to play in my Dance 2-3 class because it's a little smaller. And we do it just randomly whenever they're not feeling in the mood to dance right away. So what you'll do is you'll take a student who wants to find their best friend, and you will set them in front at the front of the room, facing away from the rest of the students. You'll have 2 sides of the room that the students will need to go to if they are wanting to be this person's best friend. So you or another student can call the categories that the group of students are trying to be similar to the person that is looking for their best friend. So, for example, because that sounds kind of confusing, if I were the caller, I would call summer or winter, and I would actually point to which side they need to go to. So the people behind the person that is trying to find their best friend, they will think in their head which one they like better. I'm a summer person, so I would move this way. And they will silently go to their side. When the person who is trying to find their best friend at the front, when they are ready, they will, staying facing away from the other students, they will point to which side they like the best. So the group of students are making their decision quietly and moving to that side, and then the person trying to find their best friend at the front quietly, without saying anything, just points to which one they like the best. So let's say I moved to summer and they pointed to summer. So all the people that moved to the summer side stays. Everybody else is out. So if you stay and they happen to like what you like as well, then you are still in the game. So then you can continue on with different categories such as books or movies or Dr. Pepper or Coke or whatever it is that you can think of. And you just continue with that until you get down to pretty much one person. And then once one person picks the very last thing that they like, then the person trying to find their best friend turns around, and it's very exciting. They found their best friend. So you will hopefully be able to see a video of this in action. Thank you. Ready, go. Allie, don't turn around.
Okay. Would you rather go to Italy or France? Italy or France?
Oh, part of Italy. Rome?
Italy or France?
Okay, well, do I choose now? Yeah. Do they go?
Yeah.
Oh, heck
Italy.
yeah.
Okay.
You're on the other side, you're going.
Okay. Would you rather have Chick-fil-A or Taco Bell? Chick-fil-A or Taco Bell? Chick-fil-A. Okay. Would you rather go hiking or go to the beach? Hiking or beach? Beach. Okay. Would you rather go Christmas or Thanksgiving? Christmas or Thanksgiving?
That's a hard one.
Christmas or Thanksgiving?
Presents or food?
Thanksgiving. Okay. Starbucks or sodas? Starbucks or soda?
Ooh.
Starbucks or soda?
Starbucks.
Starbucks.
Bye, Lily. Sorry.
Okay, would you rather not be able to text for 1 year or go on the worst first date? No texting for 1 year or horrible first date?
Okay.
No texting.
You have a best friend!